We're back, continuing our conversation with Juan Williams, Fox News political analyst, author of the New York Times bestseller, Muzzled, the Assault on Honest Debate. So we've been describing how the media limits debate. Money also limits debate.
Money in politics. If you stop and think about it, politicians who say the most outrageous things on either side, who enforce the orthodoxy, they're the ones who get all the political support, and of course it stirs their political contributions. You think about Congressman Wilson, who stood up and said while President Obama was talking about the health care legislation, "You lie." You would think that, agree or disagree with what he was saying, you would say, you know, people think this is not the way that we want our nation to look to the world, to have people standing up and screaming, "You lie," at the President of the United States. It's unprecedented, never happened, that's not us. But what happens? All of a sudden his profile gets raised tremendously, his coffers are filled with money like he's never seen before. And this is what's happening. People who say outrageous things, not only in the media, as you point out, but in politics, are the ones who are rewarded by the extremes of the political spectrum. You know, Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, the lady who got shot in Arizona, before she was shot, she said, anybody who's trying to practice politics, which is defined as the art of compromise, they're getting no reward. You have to be an extremist, an angry voice in current American politics to reap any reward. So you get things like the Tea Party freshmen come in and they say, we are going to be intransigent. We're not making any deals.
Right.
And they drive the whole debt ceiling discussion to the point where the national economy is on the brink. And then people say, well, how did we get these? What's going on here?
Well, California legislature is a perfect example. We've said publicly on this show and elsewhere that it is dysfunctional. The ratings is below 20%. It's bifurcated between liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans. Nothing gets done. Yes. Running huge deficits. It's not working. It's not working at the federal level, not working at the state level, and in many cities, Vallejo has gone bankrupt. So we need honest discussion and honest debate if we are to solve the problems of our political scene, or else we're going to continue to go down the tubes. We can't run these deficits forever. It's unsustainable.
That's an honest statement. In other words, to my mind, all you're saying is, you know what, if you love your country, if you love the state, we're going to have to make some deals. We're going to have to be reasonable and apply logic. And we're going to have to compromise. It's not a dirty word. It doesn't evidence that you're weak. It's just that, you know what, we have higher interest than our own political interest in getting reelected.
You intimated this earlier. You think the public is ready and even hungry for honest debate, as evidenced by the reaction to your situation.
Oh, yeah.
How come our legislators don't get it? They're still living a bit on borrowed time, I think.
I think that's right. But, you know, here's the thing for them. They are, just as we said earlier, rewarded by the base of the extremes. People who are saying, you know, I'd like to have a discussion about this with you. I want to hear what you're thinking about this. Those people can't be counted on to watch shows, to read newspapers or magazines that cater to one side or another.
So these shows are preaching to the choir, basically.
Absolutely. Look at the Republican debates.
And Fox News has the top ratings of any cable news show.
Fox News is #1, and Fox News, I think, look at my presence, I'm there, they try, they make an effort, but if you look at primetime Fox, you look at something like Sean Hannity, Sean says his #1 job is defeat Obama. So he is talking to the choir. And I was going to say to you, look at the Republican debates. When you see someone say, if you're a Republican and you were offered in exchange for $1 in tax hikes, $10 in spending cuts, and you see them all say, no, 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 these are people who are just trying to give red meat to the far right base of the party that says never are we going to have any tax increases, no matter what condition the country may be in.
Well, you know, if tax reductions were so good for the economy should be booming now, because we've had nothing but a bunch of tax reductions, and what has it gotten us?
Well, that's right. I mean, it's this, but you know, this is the thing, Art. There's so much rhetoric, and of course, if you dare say that, then someone says, you know what, you're attacking conservatives, you're attacking the party. That's not so. I mean, you're just saying, hey, listen, we have to make some kind of accommodations on both sides, some kind of deal so that we can move forward as a country.
President Reagan, the hero of the conservatives, talked to Gorbachev.
And Mr. Reagan raised taxes.
and that seemed to work out pretty well.
In fact, you know what? He moved the country forward. He had tremendous success, as you spoke about, talking to Gorbachev, dealing with our enemies overseas.
President Nixon, who is no favorite of the Democrats, opened the door to China by talking to the Chinese.
Well, you know what? I mean, I say these days, and here I am talking
But Democrats can't talk to Republicans here in America. What's wrong with this picture?
It's maddening. Yeah. But I was going to say, here I am talking to you, and I'm reminded, look, if Walter Cronkite was on the air today, I think that people would ignore him. They'd say, that guy's bland, he's boring, he's gray, he talks too much about the facts, about what really happened. I want to know his opinion. Is that guy a Republican? Is that guy a Democrat? Is he white? Is he black? They want to put you in a box rather than hear what you have to say.
Well, maybe the fault is not the media. Maybe we have to look in the mirror, because the media gives people what they want. The ratings are a perfect barometer of what people want.
What are they watching? You know, what are they listening to?
We had a guest years ago who said, when you mention OJ, the ratings shot up to the roof.
Oh, sure. Talk about Britney Spears or Lindsay Lohan, and the ratings go up.
So maybe it's our fault for what really turns us on.
Well, if you know, and the odd part is, if you talk to someone who's a liberal, they complain bitterly about the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They complain about Fox. They complain about Limbaugh. But then you talk to somebody who is a conservative, and they complain about, guess what, the New York Times editorial page. They say that's too biased, right? They complain about NPR. They complain about Hollywood. And it's like these people are living in separate worlds rather than saying, hey, wait a second. There's lots of voices, and you have to listen and try to learn and have an honest conversation.
And it sounds like both sides would define bias as someone who doesn't agree with them.
They demonize, and they take delight in demonizing anybody who dares to stray off the farm.
So, Juan, you've had a distinguished career, top journalist for the Washington Post for many years. What's the way out? Let's try and become a little optimistic as we conclude the second segment of this wonderful show. What's your solution? How do we get out of this box?
You know, it's not hard. It's listening. It's being willing to talk to people, and it's being willing to say, you know what, I'm going to support politicians who actually are getting something done. I'm not voting for a talk show host. I might enjoy a talk show host who says the most outrageous things, and I get to thump the dashboard and say, oh, that's great, that's great. I'm glad he's telling them off. But the people I vote for, the people I send money to, the people I expect to govern the country, I want real leadership from them. And I expect them to act as if they are adults and not to act as if they are simply engaged in a temper tantrum. So we as Americans, I think in terms of what we watch, what we read, you know what, we're making the call here. And when we give money to the extremes, when we vote for the extremes, when we let the extremes dominate the terms of the conversation, we're going to get what we have, dysfunction.
You know, John F. Kennedy wrote a book, Profiles in Courage, and there seem to be awfully few profiles in courage on the national political scene these days. People who are willing to take a bullet to put their beliefs out there, and the highest goal should not be to get elected or reelected.
No.
The highest goal should be to do something.
Serve your country. Love America.
Serve your country.
What's wrong with loving America?
We need to get back to that.
I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. You can't, you know, in every instance, I don't care what it is, as I said, the immigration issue, the budget issue, the wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, if you say something, you say, you know, I have a different thought, people say, oh, that's not good. We don't want to hear that.
Whose work today on television are you particularly fond of or respect, or what shows do you like?
Oh, I love O'Reilly's show. I think O'Reilly's right of center, but he's making a big effort to hear and to listen. And now he can be very dominant and cranky and all that. But I like him. And I think that if you think about Jon Stewart, I like Jon Stewart stuff. I think it's funny. I don't think it's news. And let me just say, this is an important distinction because so many young people think that that's the news. That's crazy. That's not the news.
But he does do satire.
Right.
And brings out certain truths.
Correct.
On that show.
Yeah.
The kids get it.
The kids get it. And I think that if, you know, you have to take some time, but if you read the newspapers, you know what? Most newspapers, especially the front of the paper, they're trying to tell you what's going on. Yeah. But guess what? Again, you must know, Art, declining circulations. People aren't reading the newspaper.
Well, we thank you so much for coming to our campus at California State University, Long Beach, to be our distinguished speaker. We thank you so much for joining us here on this show. And most importantly, we thank you for your intellectual integrity, for your honesty, and for your willingness to reach out and listen to the other person. That
thanks, sir.
Just because someone doesn't disagrees with you doesn't mean you have to be disagreeable.
No, and I think that there's more and more, as we were saying before, of a hunger in the American mind. Yeah. But just having an honest conversation. Let's have conversation that serves the end, which is solving problems. Amen
to that. Juan Williams, our distinguished speaker, 2011. Thank you at home for joining us.
Straight Talk has been brought to you by Southern California Edison, the Press Telegram, and remember, Straight Talk is viewable worldwide 24/7 at straighttalktv.com.